Winds of a broken dawn, steel towers hum, but the wild runs on. A shadow moves through the circus below, half machine, half beast, with a violet glow. They thought the outback was lost to the flame, but a dingo returned with a coat in his veins. Save up on dingo, racing through the night, claws on chrome, eyes burning bright, guarding a future the core can't control, running on data but driven by soul.
What is up, everybody? It has been it's been a very long time since I've done a live, but it's fantastic to be finally back. As you all know, I was actually on holiday for most of November, so I wasn't able to actually jump on here and do a live stream. But now that I'm back, I'm excited to be doing these a lot more often. It's a weird time to actually be doing a live stream because it's still morning here in Australia. I don't know where everyone's tuning in from, but I figured usually I don't really get to talk to people who watch my videos from the US, for example, and this was a good time to catch everybody. I know it's a bit late in Europe. Apologies. Usually I try to include Europe a little bit more than I think the East Coast of America. But I can see some of you tuning in from London, Kuwait. That's a new one, I think. I don't think I've seen that one before. But welcome to everyone. I'm really glad you're here. And there you go, Canada as well. Fantastic. And I see someone from Manchester, UK, but you've put the Irish flag up there. And Argentina, fantastic. I don't think I've had anyone watching from Argentina either. So it's great to see a really diverse crowd here today. Obviously we've got a few things that I would like to talk about today. I can't say that they're happy subjects, that's for sure. But I think one thing I would like to do perhaps in this session is to somewhat provide everyone with a bit of context as to what's going on, why what's happened in Australia has happened, and what we can do about it, and the obvious response that we're now seeing from the Australian government, unfortunately, which I've been pretty mad about, to be completely honest with you guys. But before we do that, as usual, super chats. I think I've reduced it all the way to 0. So whatever your super chat might be, it will be read out loud. And on top of that, I'd like to also thank all my YouTube members and patrons. Without your support, I would not be here. And obviously to everyone who tuned in as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully we get to a good number of concurrent views today as well. All right. So to start off with, everybody, we know what occurred last Sunday, and to give a bit of context, when I actually first saw what was happening, I think I just at night we were having dinner, and I just saw this video, and there's just these two guys in Bondi with guns. They appeared to be shooting from a bridge. And I was like, surely, there must be a mistake. This doesn't happen in Australia. That sort of gun crime, that sort of shooting, that simply just does not happen. It's you couldn't even imagine something like that happen. Port Arthur happened before I was born, I think. So, when I saw that, I was like, oh, it must be one of those gang shootings, because actually, if you didn't know, maybe a few weeks before this, or maybe in a month before this happened, there was this real weird shooting, I believe, also in Sydney, where this old guy was just shooting out of a window. I think it was gang related. So I certainly was thinking the whole time, oh, it must be something like that, like yeah, yeah, it's pronounced Bondi, not Bondi. um, so that's what I thought. I was like, surely, you know what? Like, it's a bunch of gangbangers. They're probably shooting at other gang members there. Nothing too crazy. And usually a lot of the time, like, yeah, we have drive-bys, like gangsters shooting at their rival gangsters' houses through drive-bys, and a lot of the time they're just sending warnings and that. So I was like, it's definitely one of those ones, until people started saying, hey, there's a Hanukkah event at the beach. Immediately I was like, yeah, okay, this is something else. That pressure that's been building for the past 2 years, that's finally getting released this way. And I remember quite literally, like, my heart genuinely sank when the first videos, like, of people just laying on the ground came out, and I was like, oh shit, people have died. I just didn't realize the extent of that at the time, but I was just frantically on X at the time, trying to get as much information as I could, because not even the news had the mainstream TV channels didn't have as much at the time. But you know what? Like, even at that point, I just knew who the perpetrators were. Like, we hadn't had any information about who might have done it, but in my mind, who would do this in Sydney? And we'll get to what I mean by that. In my mind, I had no doubt, and obviously, like, yeah, I'm sure, literally everybody knew. And the timing wasn't that, crazy either, because in Europe we were seeing multiple attacks on Christmas markets being foiled that week. Like, I think even on that day we got some news about I think an attack in a Polish Christmas market being foiled. Of all places, Poland's always like, oh, look at us, we don't have these issues. But we actually do know it's not for a lack of trying. They do try. It's just that it gets foiled and it's much harder. And obviously the Polish government can come out and say why these things happen, instead of, covering it up and saying diversity is our strength, or religions are the same, or there's BS excuses. At least they can do that. And yeah, there's ones in Amsterdam, Germany, and in France they actually cancelled New Year's Eve celebrations because of security concerns. Now, obviously, they've been cancelled in Australia. I believe in Sydney. I don't know if other major cities are still doing it. And I believe in parts of Germany as well. It's been that way. Lucy, yeah. Look, in my opinion, and I think this can be proven statistically as well. I think I shared a lot of stats in my last video. The only gun crime really is gang related, because they also have all the illegal firearms. Like, I have actually, in all honesty, I have shot firearms in Australia, but at shooting ranges, in both Sydney and Melbourne. And you meet enthusiasts, all types of hobby shooters, farmers, hunters. You meet all these types of people, the legal firearm owners, and that's about it. They're not very popular. And if you just go around in Australia and ask someone, in your circle, oh, do you own a firearm? The answer is almost certainly going to be no. It's just not a thing in Australia, like, for people to own firearms, especially because of the gun buyback after Port Arthur, and criminal activities that don't happen with legal firearms, like we saw in Bondi. That those people, they actually own the firearms legally, ironically. So it's just crazy. Now, I think beyond the shooting, obviously, a terrible thing that happened, like unbelievable. Like I feel like a lot of people are still coming to terms with the fact that it happened in Australia. But beyond that, perhaps the bigger, like almost as big issue as the shooting itself. Now we know the reasons for it, but the response to the shooting has been terrible, in my opinion. Just absolutely terrible. The Prime Minister of Australia came out and he's given a lot of speeches. He's done a lot of press conferences. And I think one news organization actually looked into the transcripts. And I put this in my last video as well. Out of 5,000 words he spoke since he came out after the shooting, he did not mention the word Islam or even radical Islam or Muslim or radicalized Muslim. Not even once. Not a single time. And they're still refusing to do it. Like it's a coordinated effort from this government, mainstream journalists in Australia. Zero. Like they have avoided using this word. In fact, when asked, this is I'm going to play this video for you. They immediately pivot to other types of extremism. Oh, the neo-Nazis or right-wing extremists. Like, who are you talking about? Who's done something like this in Australia? Like, there have been somewhat around 7 terror attacks recently in Australia, and all 7 were Islamic terror attacks. So who are you talking about? When I go into the CBD or a Christmas market, I'm not worried about who these right-wing people are. I'm not worried about a Buddhist driving a 19-ton truck through the crowd. I'm never worried about that. I'm not worried about Anglicans marching through with flags of a foreign country chanting something religious, disrupting the market. I'm not worried about that. Like, it's so odd. Like, they've also dragged other religions into this and being like, oh, you know, like, look, the people in charge of the Buddhist Council and the Anglicans and the Orthodox Greeks, they're bringing all these people together, and they're just like, oh, look at this, like, all of us, we condemn these attacks. But I actually find that really weird. Like, I understand, like, they want to put out a front and say, oh, look, all these religions, we're all unified and all that. But do we really need all those people? Like, I feel like the only people who really, like, obviously these people aren't responsible. Like, the Imams Council in Australia isn't responsible for this attack. But I think they should come out and be like, hey, we have a problem in our community. We have a problem of extremism. There are radicals within our community. So, you know what? To try and put a unified to unify the wider, broader community, what we're going to do is we're going to put out the sermons that these mosques in Bankstown and these areas where radicals operate. We're going to be transparent and ask them to release the transcripts of these sermons. We're going to, say that the radical preachers are bad. We're going to name them. We're going to go after them. We're going to police our own community. We're going to put more effort into this. They're going to try and ensure that more peaceful, like they did none of this. They genuinely did none of that. Instead, they came out and, they're talking about Islamophobia right now. They're talking about all this nonsense. Like, what's the point now? Am I going crazy here? Like, all these people watching it, like, I'm sure they must have been like, well, what in the world are you genuinely talking about? Like, this attack, whether you like it or not, came from within your community. So perhaps you can enlighten all of us on what's going on within your community, because that's the problem. But obviously not even the government wants to point to that problem. And I'll just quickly play this video to show you exactly how the Prime Minister of Australia has been reacting to some of this stuff. Let's put that on question.
Is radical Islam, in your view, the greatest domestic security threat Australia faces?
Well, the assessments are that That is one of the issues that we're dealing with. But I want to deal with all of the threats, whether it be extremist perversions of Islam leading to support for the ideology promoted by ISIS, whether it be also concerned about the issue of sovereign citizens killing police in Victoria and Queensland. I'm concerned about neo-Nazis thinking it's okay to march down our streets dressed in black, not worrying about their faces being covered, explicitly promoting that as well. Some of these things are not new. James Salim, National Action person, tried to kill Eddie Fundi from the African National Congress when I was a student. I was a candidate against that reprehensible fascist at Sydney University in 1983. This has been around a long period of time. There are issues have escalated, and we need to take action against all of them.
Okay, so as you can see, he's diverted from the question, and there's a couple of things here. Number one, he's talking about sovereign citizens. Yes, there was a shooting where policemen were killed, but sovereign citizens, they don't make up a large population. They're just a bunch of crazies who live in the outback. You know, they believe they're sovereign and they don't have to follow any rules. But it's not very common, and there's no, like, there's not a population of 200,000 sovereign citizens who pose a danger to the overall community. Like, I don't ever recall walking down the street, you know, in a CBD in a major city in Australia and being like, oh, you know what, I really do wonder if I got to look out for a sovereign citizen. And I don't think any other Australians have thought about it that way. And when it comes to neo-Nazis, how many... Like, I've spoken out against the neo-Nazi issue in Australia, but even with them, I never think like that. You know, they're just a bunch of guys, like 30 guys marching down the street at night when everyone's asleep so that, you know, there would be no pushback. And they've devoted their entire security and intelligence apparatus to monitoring those guys. I think I've read statistics that say something like maybe 10 or 20 years ago, only 1 out of 10 or so, like that was around the percentage that was devoted, or 1 out of 10 cases were devoted to neo-Nazi extremism and that sort of thing. But today, it's 1 out of 2. And that means they are devoting quite a lot of their resourcing towards a relatively small group, to be honest, compared to what I would argue is the much bigger threat of Islamic terrorists. That's crazy to me. And obviously, if you didn't catch that part where he goes, oh, you know what? This was a version of Islam, a perversion of Islam that is practiced by groups like ISIS. Obviously, like the shooters did have ISIS flags and that led to this issue. But this is really funny to me. The Prime Minister is lying here. There is no perversion of the religion. The closer you follow the religion to its most orthodox versions, its Salafist versions, the more attacks like this happen, the more it inspires this sort of violence, this sort of hatred towards non-Muslims and non-believers. The more you follow it, the more anti-Semitic you become. The more you tend to hate Christians and non-believers and gays and women. The perverted version of Islam is the one where you don't follow these things and you sort of try to exist within groups of followers of other religions. That is actually the perverted version of Islam. The perverted version of Islam is where the Mamdanis of the world march with LGBT flags in big cities, saying he supports gay rights and he loves Jews and Christians. That is the perverted version of Islam. So what the Prime Minister has said right now is a severe misunderstanding of how Islam works. And I want to connect that to what he said about the group ISIS. Obviously, they have been defeated militarily and they don't hold the power that they used to perhaps 10 years ago. But they actually used to put out a magazine called Dabiq. I don't know if I can show this on stream actually, but they put out this magazine at the height of their power. And Dabiq is actually an area in Syria. Let's see if I can find this. Yes, here we go. It's near Aleppo. So it's a town in Syria, right here. So this is what the magazine was named after, because Muslims believe during the end times, right before the final battle, before the day of judgment, Jesus would come down and they would defeat the Antichrist and they would fight Christians. And Christians would put up their last defense, essentially, their last stand, the Crusaders. And the Muslims would defeat the Christians and break the cross forever. And that sort of heralds the end of times or the day of judgment. That's why this group named this magazine Dabiq, because it was very prophetic. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because back then, at the height of their power, they released a magazine and they would challenge, especially moderate Muslims, moderate scholars, and they would say, look at our actions, you know, all the slavery and all the violence that they were engaging in. And they would be like, in this magazine, we're going to point out everything in the Quran and the Hadith and the Islamic schools of thought, and we're gonna show you where it supports our actions. We're gonna show you that this is the real Islam. They said this. This was their little tactic. Whereas the people that it was challenging, they weren't able to respond outside of within the religion of Islam. They had to respond outside of it, because if you look at it properly, if you look at it objectively, it is that violent. It is that bad for humanity. And at the time, all the people suffering were, in fact, other Muslims that this group did not believe were actual Muslims. They believe all these people were apostates because they weren't following it fully. So when he says, oh, this perverted version adopted by groups like ISIS, those groups were often better at understanding the religion of Islam, and they would challenge other people like the progressives and the moderate Muslims, as you say, and say, show us from this book, the Quran and the Hadith, where we're wrong. That was the challenge they put out. So this, and it's really funny in Australia at this point. I actually put out a really funny tweet about this. They're saying this really funny. It's entirely propaganda, by the way. They're saying, oh, this attack, it had nothing to do with Islam, but it had everything to do with ISIS. What does the first I in ISIS stand for? Like they're trying to create this separation that, like, even the most minimal look at this claim that they're making, and the claim falls apart. There is no Islamic State without Islam. It's just nonsense. They're saying it's got absolutely nothing to do with religion, and you should listen to this, because this is the ABC. It's like the state-funded mainstream media in Australia, and they have an extreme left wing bias, an extreme one, and they have been trying very, very hard to ensure that there is no connection between the Bondi shootings and religion at all. And this is what they had to say. And this made me so angry, honestly.
And we should be very clear that terrorists, which is what these two men were,
Got nothing to do with religion.
and absolutely are radicalised. They were targeting Jews. It is anti-Semitic, but we are ascribing all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, their actions are not based on their religion.
No, their actions are completely based on their religion. Actually, this is propaganda. This is like, you could almost call this taqiyya. They are lying to save face because they know. It's not like they don't know. They know this is a massive lie, but they're still pushing this lie because guess what? 15 people died. The vast majority of them of the Jewish faith, and yet that is not what these people want to focus on. What they want to focus on is to defend and to protect Muslims. Their big issue is Islamophobia. That is what they're worried about. Social cohesion, multiculturalism, but even all of that, they're really doing it to protect this one religion. It's actually absurd. And like, we know groups like IS, for example, there's no separation between them and Islam. They're inspired by Islam. Everything they do is within the bounds of Islam, and they practice it better than the vast majority of Muslims on the planet. So this nonsense about, it's got nothing to do with religion. How do you know, first of all, the anti-Semitism that we're talking about, that these people actually did point out, that hasn't been created in a vacuum to begin with. That just didn't appear out of nowhere. These people didn't one day wake up and decide, you know what, I have decided this morning after my morning coffee that I am actually quite anti-Semitic. That doesn't happen. That's absolutely ridiculous to even conjure up here. They are anti-Semitic because the scripture that they follow, the main surah that they recite during prayers, their 5 daily prayers, talks about Jews in Surah Al-Fatiha. If you look it up, they're in every prayer, out of the 5 prayers, in every prayer they're praying to God to not let us be like the people who went astray, and they're talking about Jews here. And the next line talks about Christians. Anti-Semitism is fundamental to Islam. There is no separation. Like Muhammad, when he was, he was just starting to spread his BS religion. His primary enemies were Jews in that area of Arabia. And before Muhammad actually died, he did say, he was killed by a Jewish woman, by the way. He was poisoned by a Jewish woman, if you didn't know that story. He did say, all Jews and Christians are going to be driven out of the Arabian Peninsula. Does this sound like a religion that does not have anti-Semitism? Or I actually don't know what the word for a similar word for Christianity would be, similar to anti-Semitism. Like, is there something like Christophobia? Perhaps that's the word. I got to look it up. But the religion was essentially built on a dislike of Jews and Christians. Muhammad himself ordered the genocide of multiple Jewish tribes, including the Banu Qurayza, which was roughly 600 people. So I don't know where, Laura Tingle, who at this point, that is propaganda. She's a propagandist trying to run cover for the the type of people who actually did this. She's not actually defending the wider community of Muslims. Perhaps that's what she thinks. But in reality, she's also providing cover exactly for the type of terrorists who did this. Because now they can hide behind this facade even more. Because now, if you're trying to create that separation, guess what? The security apparatus of this country isn't going to go into the extremist mosques and look at what these people are up to, are they? Because if there's sorry, I don't think you would hear that, but perhaps my mic is really good. These people, so the security agencies. Now, if there's nothing to do with religion, are they actually going to go into the extremist mosques? Are they going to look at the preachers who are preaching all the extremist ideas that inspired these terrorists? If there's no connection to religion, then perhaps the root cause... Well, they are trying to deny that this root cause exists anyway. They're not going to do it, are they? There's no reason for them to check these places out, is there? If this has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Well, of course it does. So this is an entire lie. Now, I'd like to show you what the former treasurer of Australia, who's Jewish, what he actually had to say about this as well, because I thought this was actually really good.
The people who carried out these attacks don't love Australia, they hate Australia.
Correct.
I heard one of the leading journalists from the ABC say this has nothing to do with religion.
Oh,
well,
that's
you know
Laura.
what that is? That's propaganda. That's not fact. We've heard from the agencies that there was an ISIS flag in the car. And we heard that these people have been training with Islamic extremists.
In the Philippines, by the way. They actually booked tickets to go to the Philippines maybe 2 months before this actually happened. And on top of that, these people were, well, one of them was in a watch list, on the ASIO watch list. So why would ASIO watch someone like this? This, I just wonder, by saying like, oh, there's no religious connection to this, like, what are they, like atheists? I really do wonder. No, I'm not actually doing multi-stream. I'm just doing YouTube at the moment. But in the future, I might actually try and get it on X.
We cannot accept people coming to this country. We cannot accept people staying in this country who do not subscribe to Australian values. This is a matter of self.
Nate, I've actually just changed it to live chat, so you should be able to see it now.
Defence. This is our national interest. This is a matter not just of self-defence, this is a matter of common sense, Prime Minister.
Would you be calling for, obviously the Trump administration have introduced those new laws, particularly about social media screening? Is that something you're calling for?
I'm calling for the Prime Minister not to give us any more excuses. I'm calling for our Prime Minister to take action so this never happens again. I'm calling for our Prime Minister to ensure, to the best of our knowledge, whatever means he needs to use to screen the people coming here, to ensure that people who are staying here are not engaged in incitement and in violence and in hatred.
Yeah, I genuinely think that was a really good message, and he's no longer actively in politics, but I know, like, and you know what, when he was treasurer, I didn't like him at all. But this message is spot on. And now this is something I saved because, you know, like when I think about it, I do wonder, am I surprised? No, not at all. This is, hopefully you can see this close up. So, I can't zoom in anymore. But these are some of the comments on Al Jazeera Al Jazeera Arabic about the attack. And as you can see, these comments are essentially in support of the shooters. They're not even essentially making excuses. They're using their real names. They're not using troll accounts. They're pretty happy about this. They genuinely are. Like, look at this. This guy's saying, "Oh God, accept their deeds and raise their ranks in the highest heavens, and gather them with the prophets, the righteous, and the martyrs. How excellent a company they are." Just remember, this person is talking about terrorists who just killed 15 people. This is the type of evil that we're contending with. And these are just your average, the average person from the Middle East. I don't know, maybe if they do live in Australia, but clearly they weren't expecting people to look into this and have them translated. And look at this. And heal the hearts of the believers. And this guy goes, "May God make you among the people of paradise." Because obviously they believe those people are martyrs. So they would get the highest of honors in heaven. And the last one goes, "May God accept his martyrdom. He is a true hero in a time when men are scarce." Yeah, this is the mindset. You know when they say, and this is what really disgusted me. They were talking about, "Oh, you know what, guys? Like you gotta unite with these people. This is a time for unity, not division." You know what? I don't want to be united with people like this. They can be moderates. They can be whatever. Like you might want to label them. But the second it's not in English, the second it's not a space where the average Australian or the average American or the European can actually decipher what they're saying, they revert right back to this. That is absolutely crazy to me. Like how openly they are celebrating the shooters and praying for them. And when you think about the chants, like for example from the river to the sea, or globalize the intifada, or a lot of the time even when they use even simple terms like jihad, they always lie to you. They always say, "Oh, look at this, from the river to the sea, like that's not a big, that there's nothing violent about it. It's just a chant about Palestinian independence or whatever excuse they use." And that line is generally pushed by non-Muslim, non-Arab people. But when you actually hear that same chant in Arabic, the meaning changes a lot, very significantly. They're not saying "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." They don't say any of that. They only say "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be Arab." Suddenly the meaning changes a lot. So from the Jordanian River to the Mediterranean Sea, if that entire area suddenly becomes Arab, what happens to all the Jews and the Christians who live in the middle? What happens to them? See, when all the non-Muslim, especially the progressive people, march, they don't think about this. They don't listen to this. But this is the type of rhetoric that's ended up causing the shooting at the end. And even with globalized intifada, they're saying the same thing now. They've suddenly really switched around, and they're talking about, "Oh no, the intifada is a peaceful thing. It's calling for revolution, for independence, and whatever it might be." But I have actually seen graffiti that around my city, graffiti where it's saying globalized intifada, and there's a bunch of people raising their fists and that. It's been covered up now. After the shooting, it's been covered up. It's been there for a very long time. Now it's been covered up. Why is that? Because this whole time, for like a year and a half, 2 years, you've been talking about, "Oh, the globalized intifada is, there's nothing bad about that saying." Well, congratulations, your people, your guys, the more radical group within your group, they have in fact globalized the Intifada. They have brought it from the Middle East to Australia, to Bondi. They have successfully globalized it. And when we're talking about the Second Intifada, for example, they weren't peaceful activities. That was a violent uprising that led to multiple deaths. And that was just the Intifada. So if you wanted to globalize a violent uprising, what exactly are you calling for? Like, these people really take us all for fools, for idiots. Like, they think we can't look up the history. They think we can't actually, you know, especially today, that we can't go in to these platforms and just click one button and get everything they're saying translated from Arabic or whatever other language they're speaking into English. They genuinely think we're we're that dumb. Well, no longer. As I always say, the internet is Islam's Achilles heel. And I believe even Harris Sultan, he put up something on X where he showed us similar comments from Pakistan where they were talking about, where they were saying the exact same stuff in Urdu, and he translated that as well. And I guarantee you, if we actually went into, you know, if perhaps I put in a hidden camera and went to Bankstown in Sydney, to one of these mosques, and if I attend them a couple of times, you know what? I reckon people there would be saying the exact same thing. Because a lot of them I have seen on even platforms like X being like, oh, you know, 15 people have died, but like these are Australians. But you know, over in Palestine today, this number of people died. Hello? Are you Australian or are you not? Like, people have died a couple of suburbs over from you. But that's not a problem to you. Well, of course not, because no one's targeting you, really. And you're not in any danger. Yeah, the only religion, perhaps, that is that doesn't need extra security or don't need to worry about their religious festivities, their Eids, perhaps is the religion of Islam. Whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're a Hindu, all these religions are concerned about security. All these religions need to hire their own security groups. Like, if you didn't know, for example, the Australian Jewish community has their own security. I think it's called CT. It starts with a C, I'm pretty sure. Maybe someone in the comment section can enlighten me on that. But they have their own security. If you go to a Christmas market, there are these bollards everywhere. Who are these preventing? Who are these bollards for? They're certainly not for Zoroastrians. They're not for followers of Scientology. They're not for Sikhs or Buddhists or Christians or Jews. Like, what are we doing here? We know exactly why they're there and why they're needed. And you can zoom out and you see the exact same thing in Europe. You can see all these festivals, Christmas markets getting cancelled, New Year's events getting cancelled. These aren't because of other religions. Yeah, that's right. That's a good one. Debate Magazine gave advice on conducting the kind of business that the bollards are meant to address. Correct. And welcome to everyone just joining in. Yes, it is in fact a morning stream. I wanted to try a bit of a different time to try and catch an American audience as well. I know it's a bit late in Europe, but if you are joining in from Europe, welcome. Hopefully I won't bore you to sleep. Yeah. So this is the thing. Like, they can no longer trick us. This is what they're thinking, and this is why I want to connect it back to, you know, the Imams Council coming out and saying all this. And I'm like, you know what? Like, you're surrounded by leaders from other religious groups, other religious communities, But I don't think, like, it's a nice little photo up for us to see them all there. But I don't really know if they should be saying much and they should even be there. I think the multiple imams councils from multiple states probably should have gotten together and put out something together saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, there is an extremism problem within our community. We're going to do a lot to address that. You know what? Like, we're gonna make our Friday sermons and all that really transparent. We're gonna invite observers, third-party observers, to come into our mosques and look at these sermons and show you that we're doing something here. We're trying to fix the problem here. That we are, we acknowledge that there's a problem, and we'll do everything in our power to make sure that something like this does not happen again. And we are going to happily work with security agencies. We're going to provide them with the intel. None of this happened. None of this happened. It's actually crazy. In fact, and I have this particular topic that we're going to move on to later, about how instead of doing all of that, they actually created a report that took them months on Islamophobia, where they have now actually presented this to the government. And this report actually talks about changing counter-terrorism laws because they feel their community is perhaps too targeted. Well, why is your community targeted? Like, this is not some sort of mystery here. And the other thing, just building on that, as you know, Ahmed, the gentleman who very bravely, and I couldn't even believe this when I was first watching the video. He jumped in, grabbed the terrorist from behind, the old guy, and grabbed the gun. He was trying to grab the gun. So when I was watching this, as the news was just coming out, and when I saw that he was able to successfully grab the gun off this dude, I was like, holy shit, I don't think I've ever seen something like that happen before. Like, the closest I could probably think of would be in the US, where at a school, like, a teacher goes in and there's this kid with a firearm. And this teacher, I think he just goes and gives the kid a hug and was able to sort of stop this before it even happened. But this was in the middle of this happening. I was like, holy shit. Like, it's crazy. This guy must have had some balls, some cojones to be able to do that. Thank you very much.
Have some shekels, Australian man. Greetings from Funijuland.
Yeah, I said it. So that all these messages will be read now. So if you do a super chat, and thank you very much for sending that through. Greetings. It must be very late over there then. These will be read out. So here you go.
Islam has removed its followers' ability to self-reflect. Islam is a cult.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that as well. And thank you very much, Flippy, for the super chat. 7,000 shekels. Yeah, I can never. Yeah, that's their big excuse, isn't it? Now, when it comes to Ahmed Al-Ahmed, I did say, you know what, like, a lot of people were saying, perhaps even, like, it went into a negative thing where the focus was perhaps too much on this gentleman. Like, what he did was absolutely heroic. He deserves all the praise he's getting. Like, not everyone will be able to do that. Like, not everyone will immediately think about. Like, I feel like this was instinctual almost. You know, you're getting shot at and you're like, that survival instinct. The fight or flight or freeze. And this guy's instinct was fight. And that is rare. That is really rare. I know that there's this thing where a lot of men say, you know what, like, in my dreams, I always feel like I would be the hero and I would jump in and do all that. But it's not actually that common. It's, you know, your survival instincts most of the time would make you run away or freeze on the spot. But not only, when it comes to him, now he is getting threats from the Arab world, and specifically from Palestinians, talking about how he's a traitor. How crazy is that? Like in Australia, you know, in Western countries, because they have an incentive to ensure to highlight this guy, because, you know, they're mostly worried about Islamophobia over everything else. They're highlighting this guy, but over on the other side, where in those Muslim countries, they're talking about, oh, this guy's a complete traitor.
Do you think Prime Minister Albo is a wanker?
The way it said wanker, yeah, I do think he's a wanker. Like, it's no doubt. He's a lot worse than that, Flippy. A lot worse. And thank you very much for that super chat as well. Yeah, so this guy, despite doing all of that, you know what? In the Arab world, he's a traitor because he saved the lives of perhaps even more Jewish people. Ironically, like he would have saved the lives of a lot more people. In fact, it's insane.
Looks like Canada is next. Local Jewish community is on high alert.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, Vic, and thank you very much for that. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Canada, the UK, even parts of America, they're all the exact same at the moment, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them actually do in fact have their own securities, just like Australia. Yeah, so in this case, he is also now a target. Shockingly. Like, what? Like, you cannot make peace with such evil. You cannot, like, they're talking about, oh, it's a time for unity, we should not be so divided. You know what, guys? I don't want to be united with people who leave comments like this. I don't want to be united with the people threatening this guy. I don't want to be united with the imams or community leaders who cannot come out and police their own communities. I don't want to be united with anyone who would hide their sermons, who would protect their radicals, who would ask the Prime Minister of this country to be like, oh, hey, you know what, we should downgrade our counter-terrorism laws, or change our counter-terrorism laws to not focus on certain religions or certain groups. Like, I do not want to be united with these people at all. I don't actually even want to be united with people who cannot even name what the issue is. I don't want to be united with them, genuinely, because I feel like if you cannot even come to terms with why this happened and call it out for what it is, then your intentions are evil. Like, they're just pure evil. Because a thought process like this, at scale, is what eventually led to this led to this mass tragedy. Yeah, I don't want to be united. In fact, you know that saying, was it after the Bataclan massacre, or perhaps it was after the Manchester, like the Ariana Grande concert attack? This phrase came out and they were like, oh, don't look back in anger. You know what? I'm pretty angry, and I will be looking back in anger, because we have been talking about this for a very long time, and the left and the Islamic community and all these people have just tried to hide it. They've tried to normalize the anti-Semitism. They've tried everything in their power to distract us from what the real issue is here. It's actually crazy. Genuinely. So yeah, I'm not going to be united with any of these people. And I think I've actually saved... Oh. I'll just go up a little bit here. Yeah, and you know what, like, as part of this, now we're talking about a massive gun buyback program where the government is just going to spend $1 billion buying back as many guns as possible. This is the solution. Obviously, the farmers and, you know, rural Australians, they're going to hand over their firearms because this is who's going to get impacted the most. The legal firearm owners, not the radicals who are living in Sydney, not the gangsters. None of them are handing over their guns, but it's the legal firearm owners who will have to do this. And let's just,
a national gun buyback scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms, the largest buyback since the Howard government initiated one in 1996. Australia's gun laws were last substantially reformed in the wake of the Port Arthur tragedy. The terrible events at Bondi show we need to get more guns off our streets. We know that one of these terrorists held a firearm licence and had 6 guns.
Yeah, he wasn't even a citizen.
In spite of living in the middle of Sydney's suburbs there at Bonnyrigg. There's no reason why someone in that situation needed that many guns. There are now more than 4 million...
Actually, there is a very good reason why he had that many guns. He was a terrorist. He was an Islamic terrorist. That's why he wanted that many guns. Albanese, what are you saying here? Like, are you genuinely that dumb? Are you seriously saying you have no idea why a terrorist might perhaps own as many guns as possible? Seriously. Like, he doesn't know the answer to this. And doesn't it make it more obvious the fact that he's living in suburbia over a rural area? Like, isn't it even more obvious why he had that many guns?
Million firearms in Australia. More than at the time of the Port Arthur massacre. Nearly
QQ
30.
control does not work due to 3D printing. Bad people will always do bad things. Also, greetings from the USA.
Thank you very much, Kai, for sending that through. And I agree. There is actually a big problem of 3D printing in Australia as well.
Years ago. The government will introduce legislation to support the funding of this buyback scheme and meet the costs on a 50-50 basis with states and territories. We expect hundreds of thousands of firearms will be collected and destroyed through this scheme. Consistent with the approach that was taken in 1996, the government is proposing that states and territories will be responsible for the collection, processing and payment to individuals for surrendered firearms. The Australian Federal Police will then be responsible for the destruction of these firearms. Australians are rightly proud of our gun laws, and until 5 years ago, Australians were rightly proud that there had not been a repeat of Port Arthur. They were rightly proud we're not home to the constant carnage we see in some countries. But there have been, of course, incidents in both Queensland and Victoria that have seen so-called sovereign citizens murder police officers. We will introduce this national buyback scheme to get guns off our streets and to help to assist.
Actually, it's interesting that he doesn't mention the last terror attack in Sydney, isn't it? Like the Lint Cafe siege, he hasn't mentioned that. And of course, we know why, because that was also a case of Islamic terrorism. He doesn't want to talk about that one. He's now talking about, oh, what about the sovereign citizens? Yeah, you know what? Like, I think we have a bigger problem than a bunch of crazy conspiracy type sovereign citizens in this country, Mr. Albanese. And on top of that, I don't know how many of you guys have actually seen this, but a few days after Bondi. These people were caught. And this story is crazy because I think there's a lot going on here that we don't really know about. Because look at this. This is the Australian Canada. This is Australian Canada terrorism police ramming this little Hyundai i30 and dragging these people out. They're just, there's a better, yeah, look at this. All these people just arrested. They're fully armed. You can see all undercover cars here that
Western left expects us to make zoot with Islamists.
Yeah, Flippy, you're right. Yeah. And you can see more here of what was happening. This is them getting these people out of the car. Yeah. So the reason I actually brought this up is because this story doesn't make very much sense. This is so the people arrested here, all these guys. Obviously, like if you ask a leftist, just by looking at these people, they wouldn't know what religion they follow. You see, you know, the beard without the mustache. We have no idea. Well, what religion could they possibly be, guys? Now, the story is that these people are traveling from Melbourne, which is in another state, which is around 8 or 9 hours away, to go to Bondi, where the shooting happened. And apparently they were doing so to go to the beach. One of these people, or maybe even two of them, were on a security agency's watch list. And counterterrorism police obviously got tipped off and went to do this. Now, weirdly enough, these people have been released, and I feel like there probably wasn't enough evidence to actually keep them detained. But why were these people of the followers of the Al-Zut religion, why were these people to go to the beach, traveling 8 or 9 hours in a little 5 people crammed into a Hyundai i30 with apparently no luggage, heading over to a place where this tragedy took place 8 hours away just to go to the beach? That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe they were on a rock band tour, but I think music is haram, Chuck Norris. So, and look at them, like all of them appear to be dressed in all black, for example. Like, look at these people. Like, this seems so suspicious to me, and yet we're meant to think, oh, there's nothing wrong with them, and they've just been released, and we can quickly watch what the police commissioner said.
Information received was that Bondi may have been one of a number of locations that the males were intending to attend, but the reason for attending is unknown.
Well, I think, sir, what you should probably do is monitor them for as long as possible. Because nobody drives from Melbourne to go to Bondi with no luggage. Thank you very much, David Foster. Yeah, unknown, apparently. Unknown. Nobody knows why he's done this.
The justification for their ongoing detention no longer exists, subject to a review of evidence. They will continue to be...
The NSW and Vic major organised crime is dominated by one faith.
Yeah, that is also true.
...monitored whilst in New South Wales, and we will work closely with our Victorian and Commonwealth law enforcement partners.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like they've been released now, but there is a video of one of them after they've got released. This guy was asked a few questions, and I think he was actually injured during one of the when the police stopped them. Let's see what he's got to say.
Said that they fear you guys have extremist beliefs. Is that true?
Would you just tell us your side, what happened?
Is there anything you'd like to say at all? Obviously, your faces have been plastered all over the news, backed by this counter-terrorism operation. Is there anything you'd like to say in response? You seem quite defeated or upset right now.
I mean, the police have let you go, so will you tell us what your side is?
Your lawyer says you're here for a holiday. Is that true? Are you going to keep holidaying?
Yeah, that specific guy did not want to say anything. Who? I mean, if you just lay out the facts behind the story, it's just so funny to me. You're going on a holiday from Melbourne to Bondi, 8 hours away, dressed the way you are, no luggage, 5 grown men packed into a Hyundai i30 to a location where this had happened just not even a week ago. And one of you or two of you are on a security watch list. Now, the mainstream narrative is for us to believe that, yeah, these fine gentlemen truly were going on a holiday to Bondi. Like, it's crazy. And well, yeah, well, that is also true. 99 NoFX. That is very true. You don't want to go to St Kilda Beach. I mean, you could always go Great Ocean Road and maybe even Geelong for somewhat of a nicer beach. Now, this guy, this fine gentleman, I had a lot of trouble understanding what the hell this guy was talking about. Like, he just sounds like he is the product of generations of Alzot inbreeding. Like, you know, like if I challenged him to produce more than 2 grandparents, I doubt he could produce more than 2 grandparents. Because perhaps you guys can figure out what he's saying here, but it was difficult. It's like a 5-year-old could probably speak to you better than this.
Just came to Sydney, so summer up, we came here to have a vacation. So kind of low, we booked the second day in, we booked the Airbnb. Midway through the drive, the Australian, I got told, the highest of the highest in the police army. They were, what were they called? The Australian task, I don't know what they're called. The tactical Australian unit, the highest of the highest coppers came. They came in Land Cruiser. We were driving, we stopped at the security line. I'm not scared of nothing but Allah, but we're at the green light, it was red light on this one, they came
they came on the lights, we would have stopped, but they just smashed the car.
Show us your injuries, man, show us your injuries.
Look at him, me, I can't show it,
but it's 2 centimeters in.
You got cleaned up, bro?
I got cleaned up, I got bashed.
You alright? Any injuries?
I got kicked in the head, but
one of the boys got tasered. 2 of the boys got tasered.
The boys got
Look, so 2 of the boys got arrested in the street, and they got arrested. They got bashed, and they got because there's no one watching. But we got arrested on the main road, so they didn't really do. Like, we still got humiliated. Like, they oppressed us so much, and they changed our charges just to keep us long. Like, we've been in custody for 27 hours. There's no evidence, and they had to let us go. But there was no choice. And like, they were holding Rob. And like, right now, you can see we have no shoes. They took the shoes. I have no phone. There's still no evidence, mind you. There's no evidence. I still have no phone. I have no car now. I don't know how I'm going to get back to Sydney.
I'm going to hook you up, cuz, alright? I'm going to...
Yeah, hook him up with some shoes. Oh, yeah, that was a rough watch. Honestly, as I said, it was they could not produce more than 2 grandparents. Genuinely, they could not.
What do you think of 5 Pillars UK writers complaining about the detainment? Also, does the Aussie prisons protect pedos like the UK prisons?
Yeah, I did see that. So Five Pillars UK is an Islamic propaganda group operating out of obviously the UK, and they actually they did write on Twitter saying, "Oh, so Muslim men can't even go to the beach." Yeah, they can go to the beach, but right after a terror attack, for you to go to the beach in a completely different state, 9 hours away in a Hyundai i30, with one or multiple people within your group being on security watch lists, I don't know. That to me sounds a bit suspicious, and I think our security agencies did the right thing by stopping them and ensuring that these guys weren't up to no good. Now, even if they weren't up to any good, now it would have spooked them for sure. And yeah, it is not only is it distasteful, but it's just completely suspicious. Like, there's just no way these guys could have thought while they were getting arrested, even if they're completely innocent. By the way, they might be. There's no way they would have. Well, you know what? To be honest, I feel like they're clearly not the smartest people. Their parents are almost certainly first cousins or whatever. So their chain of thought, it's not connecting the dots. I don't think. He's said they had an Airbnb in Bondi, and they were traveling to the Airbnb. They've clearly, the security agencies have taken their shoes, and they have suffered some injuries in the process of getting arrested. But in my opinion, I mean, it is pretty funny as well. And the fact that these guys can't even, like, actually say a few words without the person listening being able to understand at all says a lot about them. Clearly not the smartest. And yes, it's not a family tree that they have. It's a wreath. And like I said, I highly doubt any one of these three guys would be able to produce more than 2 grandparents, unfortunately. But I actually did save this video of U.S. Secretary of State, or is he the Secretary of State Marco Rubio, talking about Anthony Albanese's mass immigration
strategy. You've warned Europe about civilizational erasure. When you've been watching what's been happening in Australia with the rise of anti-Semitism and our government's response to the Bondi massacre, our Prime Minister's dodged direct questions on Islamic extremism, but then unprompted evoked right-wing extremism as a threat. Do you have any message to Australia about civilizational erasure, and why is America watching?
Look, I just think it's very simple, and that is that any mass migration is highly disruptive to any country. We talked about it here in the United States.
Did you hear about YouTuber Tyler Oliveira and a Japanese YouTuber being attacked by jihadis in Japan?
No, I did not, Flippy. Maybe we can have a look at that later. I did see him go to other places like Europe. I saw his really funny video in India as well, but not the one in Japan.
When you experience mass migration, I don't talk about immigration. I'm talking about mass migration. Okay, mass migration is a negative thing. It's not positive, and it's very difficult for any society to absorb and assume hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people over a short period of time, especially if they come from halfway around the world. There are cultural and assimilations issues related to that, etc. And so these are concerns that it's concerns I have about our own country primarily. It's been a priority of this administration to address this. But I think it's a growing concern in Europe. I mean, there are other voices in Europe and obviously in Australia as well that have expressed concern about this. These are facts. This doesn't make you anti-anybody. What it makes is you do have, as a sovereign country, the right to control how many people you absorb, how many people you allow in, and who those people are. This is a very basic sovereign right. Okay, it doesn't mean you don't allow any people in. There are people coming into this country every day to visit, to work, to live permanently, but you have to know who they are, and you have to have some limits and controls over what those numbers are. And obviously, because of some of the things we've seen, mass migration over the last decade has been highly disruptive, not just to the United States, but also to continental Europe, and in some cases in the Indo-Pacific as well. So I just think this is a real challenge that multiple Western advanced industrialized countries are facing, and I think it's pronounced in parts of Europe as well, and obviously, at least on the basis of your question, appear to be a challenge as well in Australia.
Yeah, if you didn't know, the father in the terror duo, he was a migrant, and he came over to Australia maybe close to 30 years ago. Clearly, 30 years did not assimilate him at all. And even back then, Australia was importing really bad people. Now, he actually came from India. He like everyone thought he was Pakistani, but turns out he was from India. And I think a lot of people don't actually realize India has perhaps top 3 or 4 largest Muslim populations in the entire world. And I do strongly feel like this is something that needs to be considered when it comes to immigration policies, because a lot of people usually, you know, they're talking about preventing immigration from Islamic immigration from countries like Pakistan or Yemen or all these bad ones. But I think we need to start considering even places like perhaps Indonesia and India, where I feel like there's a lot of radicalized elements, and the Philippines, where these people went to train before coming back to Bondi. Yeah, after 30 years, I believe he was a permanent resident, which is why he wasn't deported. But if I recall properly, even if you are a permanent resident, you have to, if you don't get citizenship within that period, permanent residents do have to renew their visa. So I feel like he actually would have renewed his permanent resident visa every 5 or 10 years or so. So the only real difference between a permanent resident and a citizen is they don't have voting rights, and they cannot get an Australian passport. But they're entitled to everything else, from higher education help to welfare benefits, all of that. They can buy properties, they can get mortgages in Australia. There's nothing they cannot do, and that is, I believe, why he was able to acquire those guns. Yeah, and correct. You are correct. Non-citizens, if you have permanent residency, it's a special type. Think about the green card visas in America. It's the same thing. They are able to purchase guns with no issue. What did I save here? Here's my bookmarks. Yeah, this is the other video, and I thought this one was so funny, where he just was not able to talk about, again, no Islamic terrorists. He cannot even utter the words.
And should there be a greater emphasis on hate speech from Muslim clerics in the western part of Sydney?
I think, look, I think, as I said earlier, what we've done is criminalise more forms of hate speech. And you know,
that wasn't the question, though, was it? That was absolutely not the question. What he was asked was, were we going to look at these Muslim radical preachers?
Criminalise the Nazi salute, obviously. That
Nazi salute. Who brought that up?
That's in its own context. But we need to be looking at all of this, and it is really that we have.
So should there be a greater emphasis
Isn't
on
Nike from India?
Yes, he is.
This hate speech from Muslim clerics, then?
Well, I don't want to. We will go through all of this. I emphasise that we have done more in terms of criminalising hate speech than we have seen from any other government. But we need to look at all of this. And we need to make sure that we've got the right laws in place, and that we are doing everything we can to keep safe the vibrant multicultural society that we have.
Why is it such a hard question for this guy, who's the defense minister as well as the deputy prime minister? Why is it so hard for him to say, yes, Mr. Journalist, we are going to be looking at the radical preachers because they played a massive part in radicalizing this guy here into into shooting up Bondi, because that is the key issue. We'll be like he didn't even need to say. He didn't actually need to even point it out. He could have said, yes, we are going to look into that. You know, like, he could have just said yes to that part, and then he could have gone on about his right-wing, whatever, sovereign citizens, or the neo-Nazi salute, or whatever. But he couldn't even bring himself to say that. It was too hard for him to be like, yeah, there is a problem with radical preachers. Because there is a massive problem with radical preachers, and I'll show you exactly who we're talking about. He couldn't even do that. And that really tells you where their minds are at and who they are trying to protect. Is a multicultural society really that much more important than the lives of people who live in said society? If you judge this video, then it sounds like to him it is. It's just absurd. Now, of course, multicultural societies don't work when one of the cultures do not seek to exist with the other cultures, or one culture believes that it is much superior to the other cultures, or that culture has built-in anti-Semitism or hatred of Christians, hatred of gay people, hatred of women. Then we have a massive problem. And I actually put up a tweet on X the other day. It's pretty much like this. So you have a melting pot, yeah, and you add all these ingredients to make a nice stew. But what if you add, and you know, all the ingredients you're adding, it's melting to make this nice stew. But then you add a rock. That rock is not going to melt. Suddenly, the stew's completely ruined. And to add to that, the rock has, say, poison in it. Now, all of that stew also turns poisonous. That is what... If you allow Islam to gain a major foothold in any country, that is what happens. And it's really good that he pointed out Western Sydney, because Western Sydney is where all these terrorists actually came from, and where all the radicals in Australia are. So I want to show you. I want to show you why all these politicians are trying so hard to not even mention the words Islam or Muslim. Now, to do that, we're going to quickly look at the federal. So this is federally. These are the areas covered federally. And demographics. At 23.4%, Watson has one of the highest Islamic populations of any electorate in Australia. More than 20 times the national average. And it contains all these suburbs where radical Islamic preachers come from, where terrorists come from. Bankstown, Lakemba. These are all suburbs where there's a very significant number of Islamic communities. And who's been in charge? Who's the guy who's the member for this electorate? Tony Burke. And he's been the member since 2004. And Tony Burke is also the Minister of Home Affairs, Minister for Immigration and Citizenship, and Minister for Cybersecurity and the Arts. Now, the big one obviously here is Home Affairs and Immigration and Citizenship. He's the one who's brought in 3,000 or 4,000 people from Gaza with minimal vetting into Australia. He's the one who brought in those ISIS brides into Australia and was trying to ensure that like nothing can be done to stop those people from being brought back into Australia. He's the person. He's the one who's going to the airport to meet up with these people who are coming into Australia and celebrating. He's the one where when they're chanting Allahu Akbar at Sydney Airport, you look over and oh, guess what? It's Mr. Burke on the side smiling and laughing and shaking their hands. Because the Australian Minister for Immigration and Citizenship and Home Affairs is being held hostage by an electorate that has 20 times more Muslim than the national average. This is a massive problem at the moment. A massive problem. And I always say, this is where mass immigration, it really rears its ugly head. Now, we don't have this problem with, say, say an area like Box Hill with a large Chinese population. No one's worried about that because we're not importing terrorists back, and we don't have the member going in and greeting them at the airport or getting caught saying nothing will be done. He'll ensure there'll be no blockages in returning literal ISIS members back to Australia. Now, something really funny actually appears when you actually look at all the people, look at all the names of the people who've competed against Tony Burke in the last election. Zakir Alam, Ziad Basyouni, who I believe is a Palestinian. So if you recall the Muslim Votes Matter movement that I've often mentioned on the channel, I believe this person, this independent, was the person who was put forward by that movement to compete against Tony Burke. And he got a decent amount of votes, 14%. But the Labour Party, the left-wing Labour Party, were very scared of him. They truly believed that this guy had a good shot at defeating him, which is why Tony Burke is doing everything in his power to not even mention the words Islam or Muslim or anything like that. And that is also exactly the reason why he was booed when he attended the Bondi Memorial in the dark where no one could see. But they did see, and they yelled at him. They said, "Shame on you," and they booed him. And he spent like maybe 5 minutes there and he ran away. He came with security, spent a bit of time, 5 minutes, and then just took off. Because he knows that the rhetoric, the rhetoric that's come out of his electorate played a big part in what happened in Bondi. And there was nothing he did about that. In fact, he did everything in his power to protect those people. Because he's being held hostage. Those 39,000 votes there, he's being held hostage, genuinely. Now, even if you look at the other names, you can see like this entire potentially electorate primarily is yeah. Now, if you're not watching from Australia, the way it works is Australia has preferential voting. So the two final candidates really who competed is that Muslim Votes Matter candidate, Ziad Basyouni, and Tony Burke. And he lost, but at the same time, there was a slight swing against. There was a slight swing there. So now that is just the federal level. Now, if we go to the state level, once again, this is the state. This is the state of New South Wales. And it contains all the suburbs where all this extremism is coming from. And you know what the member for this this area is it's pretty funny. His name is Jihad. His name is Jihad Dib. Yeah, it's it's an unfortunate name, but as you can see, yeah, there's and let's have a look at how much diversity there is when it comes to the candidates. Jihad, Nathan, Talib, Nasedra, Yosra. Yeah. As you can see, there is absolutely no diversity. Because this is just, Islamic candidate versus Islamic candidate. Trying to out-Islam each other. So, you can see why the Labour Party, the left-wing Labour Party is held so hostage. to this electorate, which has such a large Islamic population. And look at it. This is one of the guys who shot it up. Like he was, believe it or not, he was a downer.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
It's very loud there.
Here, bring sensation, spreading dawah, doing the work of the prophets, continuing the work of the prophets.
He's saying he's continuing the work of the Prophet. And it's really funny because I was saying his actions are closer to the actions of Muhammad than the Muslim guy who tried to grab the gun from this guy's dad. Ahmed's actions are actually they're anti-Islam, his actions. Well, you can see obviously by the comments he's getting and the threats they're now making on his life. What he did that day is against everything that Muhammad stood for, whereas what this guy did that day is closer to how Muhammad lived his life. And here he is talking about how he's going to continue the work the Prophet did. Well, hopefully he, like between then and now, he didn't emulate the Prophet with any al-Zut activities. Now, if we go back to, you know what? To add more context, here is the Australian Prime Minister.
To meet children growing well.
A few years ago, that's...
With helicopter gunships, with tanks, and with missiles. The response of Israel has been to meet children.
Yeah, so the Australian Prime Minister is also one of those Palestine protesters back in his day. So once again, it just creates... It creates this, you get the real context as to why they're struggling so hard to even, not just call out radical Islam or radicalized Muslims or whatever it is. You see how much they're held hostage, you see their history, you see their background, and now we're expecting them to be able to call out the root cause or identify the root cause. No, they're not planning to do that. What they're planning to do, genuinely, is a mass gun buyback. I did say on X. How about no gun buybacks, but how about a jihadist go back? We don't want them in this country. We want them out of here. We know there's a lot of them here, and luckily I saved this video. I can't actually go further down because there's footage of the shooting, but I'll see if I can play this.
First and foremost,
so this is Wissam Haddad. He's an alleged IS recruiter who operates out of one of the areas that I showed you before. He operates out of Al Medina Center. Sydney. Yeah, he operates out of this place here, which is a hotspot of terror activity, terror recruitment, people leaving to go and fight for terror groups. This is where they're all getting radicalized, and it's called Al Medina Dawah Center. And let's have a look at one of the things that he had to say.
we can't take away from the fact, first and foremost, that jihad is definitely part of our deen.
Did you hear about a new Resident Evil game? Resort Island. Leon Kennedy fights zombified jihadis zombified by a Blackstone and Zoot pile each other.
No, I did not. I've not been I don't think I've ever been a big Resident Evil guy, but it's good that he's fighting some Al-Zoot members there.
And as Muslims, we should never ever shy away from this. And yes, there may be types of jihad, but of the peak of this jihad is that which the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about, and I'll read the hadith soon. And that is fighting in the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. A physical fight, not the fighting of the nafs. Although your nafs is needed in order for your physical to go out in the path of Allah. So we're not talking about the struggle of the nafs, we're talking about the physical jihad, the physical struggling against the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to make the word of Allah Azza wa Jal the highest.
Yeah, this is another thing, isn't it? Like, anytime you mention the word jihad, they're like, oh, but that means struggle. Like, they always try to cover it up. But when you actually listen to what these people are actually talking about, they never talk about it being some spiritual struggle, pretending like, you know, you're a bunch of Buddhists sitting down, meditating, thinking about pain and suffering in life so that you might be able to achieve inner peace. None of that's happening here. When they say jihad, yeah, you're right, Canadian. Yeah, it's like saying, oh, but Mein Kampf also meant just my struggle, so there's no problem, right? No, jihad's struggle, that struggle is physical, it's violent, and it's against this religion's ancient enemies, often. And that is usually Jews and Christians.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says to, which means not equal are those believers remaining at home other than the disabled and the mujahideen.
I would argue most of these people are in fact disabled. You know, like through a high rate of first cousin marriages. So if you look at IQ charts, the Islamic world, they unfortunately don't rank very high, because the more there is inbreeding of this sort, the more the collective IQ falls in society, to the extent where you could be legally classified as mentally retarded. So you are, yes, disabled.
Who strive and fight in the cause of Allah with their wealth and their lives. Allah has preferred the mujahideen through their wealth and their lives. And for those who remain behind, by degrees. And to both Allah has promised the best reward. But Allah has preferred the mujahideen over those who remain, with a great reward.
The 72 virgins? Is that what?
So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the worlds, the creator of everything,
including the men of Al-Zut,
is telling us who He prefers. And Allah Azza wa Jalla prefers those who go out and fight in His path, and He prefers them over.
You are the GOAT. Dingo for PM.
Thank you, Isaiah.
Over those who sit idle. So their rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than us who are sitting idle. Or in that case, anyone who is sitting idle. Their status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different than those who are sitting. Although there is also good in those who are sitting. Each of them has the reward. But Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying that He has preferred those who go out in His path, in jihad fi sabilillah, He's preferred them above those who sit idle.
Yeah, as you can see, like, you know, you've got to really think about what he's saying here. And remember, this is in 2024. So this is post October 7, 2023. And this is post a lot of big marches and protests which had been taking place almost weekly in most major cities in Australia. So this is at a time when tempers are already high. This is at a time when security agencies had already said, hey, guess what? If we don't allow these protests to go ahead, then we fear that there might be a terror attack, because they act as a pressure release for these communities. And then here's this guy saying, guys, don't sit around. Don't be idle, because that is not what God wants. God wants you to actually go out there and physically engage in what we're calling jihad, which is fighting, which is what he said at the very start. His sermon here is specifically making it so that he's calling out Muslims. Even the moderates, by the way. He's not just calling out the radicals or people who have been radicalized. He's calling out even the moderates. The people who he's talking about here, who's sitting around being idle, those are the moderates. He's saying to them, go out and fight. Go out and do that, because that is the highest honor God's going to give you. And the highest rewards you're going to get in heaven go to those people who don't sit idle and who go out and fight. That is what he's saying. And the fact that once you factor in that this was last year when things had heated up significantly, and anti-Semitic attacks had already happened at synagogues where they have been trying to burn them down. Jewish children going to Jewish schools need mass security. They look like war zones. But all of that is happening. Here's this guy saying, hey, guess what? We need to escalate. Don't sit around. We need to escalate this even more. And here's a fun fact for you. In 2014, I believe, this guy who, I believe he's actually, he was born in Australia. I believe he was born in Australia. He said he challenged the Australian government to denaturalize and deport him. And the Australian government didn't do anything at the time. They failed that challenge. If they had deported this guy back then, denaturalized and deported him, I feel like what happened last Sunday might not have actually happened. It's just crazy to me that how many failures have happened within the Australian government for this to finally happen. Now, even the opposition actually had a lot of trouble talking about radical Islam. But I think once one or two started really going at it, once they saw Nate, once they saw Pauline Hanson, who somewhat leads a party that's similar to Reform in the UK now, once they all came out, suddenly even the centre-right opposition, they're like, oh yes, radical Islam. Now, there are others who've said this, so we won't be the first to say it. You know what? We won't be the first person to cast the stone. Others can do it. But now that they have, and now that we can sense the sentiment changing, now that we can hear, like the people who are viewing this stream right now, and just average Australians being like, wait a minute, why hasn't the Prime Minister been able to come out and even say the word radical Islam? He doesn't have to say Islam. He doesn't have to say Muslim. He can use whatever politically correct term he would like to use, but he couldn't. So the average person is also now asking, this is a bit weird. This whole issue, this whole thing about blaming guns is a bit weird, because we're not addressing the root cause. The guns aren't the ones hating Jews. The guns aren't anti-Semitic. It's like recently I saw a video out of Birmingham where they were talking about, oh look, we have put up bollards and we have increased security here for, I don't know if it was a Christmas market or something like that, because there are hostile cars. So what are we talking about here? So the cars come to life, become hostile, become anti-Semitic. The cars actually start reading the Quran and decide, oh crap, I need to drive into people attending a Christmas market. Like, we're ascribing the same to guns now. The guns come to life like in Toy Story when Woody and Buzz come to life when nobody's around. And the guns are like, oh, I've got to engage in something like this, in a shooting like this. That's not the problem. Now, if you look at someone like this, you immediately identify what the problem. Yeah, the guns read the beak. Yeah, we have to ban cars. I mean, Elon Musk should call up the councillors from Birmingham and ask them, hey, your cars have achieved artificial general intelligence. We've been working at it for like 10, 15 years with our FSD, but we haven't been able to figure it out. How did yours figure it out? And they've gone one step further. They've converted to Islam. Yeah, he might have to ask, like, are these cars inbred as well? Anyways, if the Prime Minister actually looked at someone like this and sent people to look at the center that I showed you before that they're preaching out of, they could have potentially prevented this. Oh, look at this. There's more. What's he talking about here?
These are a people that when it comes to the end of time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would cause miracles for the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to see and hear with their own eyes and ears. Towards the end of times when the Muslims will be fighting the Jews, the trees will speak, the stone will speak, and they'll say, "O Muslim, O believer, there is a Yahudi behind me, come and kill him." So we need to know where they came from, what they did at the time of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what they continue to do now, and what they will continue to do in the future.
Yeah, it's a very, very famous hadith. That is the primary hadith in Islam that has been the cause of anti-Semitism, and the reason is because of it being an end times prophecy. Like, before the day of judgment, even the trees, even the stones will say, "Hey, Muslim, a Jew is hiding behind me." And during some of these Palestine protests, you could actually see some of them were marching with artistic pieces of trees and stones speaking and saying, "There's a Jew behind me." This is what they believe. This is orthodox. This is real Islam. You cannot have Islam without the hadiths. These are the words of Muhammad. And this is the type of rhetoric that inspired the shooters. And this is the type of rhetoric that inspires even other people in his community. Just remember, he's putting this on live streams, he's streaming it on Facebook and whatever to a lot of people. A lot of people are watching this, and the people who are watching this aren't just radicalized Muslims. There's just going to be a lot of normal Muslims who want to learn more about the religion, hearing people like this as well. And yet, we're not talking about any radical preachers today. We're not talking about Abu Usaid or Wissam Haddad. They are not a problem. When the defense minister was asked straight up, "Hey, are you going to call out one of the radical preachers?" Where is he? When he's asked specifically to call out the radical preachers like Wissam Haddad, he refused. He immediately goes to Nazi salutes or some other BS like that. He did not want a bar of it at all. He didn't even want to mention the words. Like, it felt like it felt like we were watching him think he had been caught in some sort of trap. But it's not a trap. We're just trying to ensure that your eyes are on the root cause. Because if we can see these videos, we know that these people can also see them. But what they're trying to do now is avoid them.
What do you think of Quran-only Muslims?
Flippy, funny enough, when I was having a lot of trouble with Islam, I actually became a Quran-only Muslim for like a short while because there was obviously that cognitive dissonance, and the hadith are just, they are just not great. The hadiths reflect the life of Muhammad, and if Muslims are to emulate that, it's just some of the worst stuff you've heard. You know, the whole thing about Aisha, how Muhammad ordered the killings of many people, including just for petty, not even crimes, because Muhammad was just so petty. He wanted poets and writers and all that killed. He would ask his early followers, "Hey, who would be an assassin for me?" And they would all jump at his feet, volunteering to go and do this. So I was actually, but when I think back to it now, I feel like that's just a stage where you're almost, you're very close to becoming an ex-Muslim, is what I can say about Quran-only Muslims. Because you become a Quran-only Muslim because you realize there's a lot of problems with the religion of Islam. And the next step would be, hey, even the Quran has a lot of problems, and perhaps the only reason you're trying to hold on to it is because perhaps the country you live in ascribes the death penalty for apostasy or imprisonment, or, you know, if, say you're a woman, and you want to leave Islam in a country like that, oh, you are in a bit of trouble. Because often, you might have heard of honor killings and that, where families turn on their own children. So if you're a young girl, yeah, that risk is also there. So yeah, as you can see, like they are trying so hard at the moment to avoid what the root cause is. Now I wanted to actually go back and rewind to Douglas Murray on a couple of really interesting things that he said about Islam some time ago on the PBD podcast. And I thought they were really relevant to what we're seeing today. Especially because if you think about it, this isn't just an immigration issue. Because this guy here, he was born in Australia. And yet after 25, I think he was 25, after 25 years of living here in Australia, enjoying every luxury, every freedom, everything that a country like this, a pluralistic country like this, offered him, he still ended up doing what he did. And that, to me, reflects one of the massive failures of multiculturalism. One of its drawbacks, which is multiculturalism cannot exist where there are cultures that don't want to, that just cannot function in a pluralistic multicultural society. Where that culture believes it's superior to all. Where that culture believes it has the final word of God. And therefore there can be no changes. And therefore our word is final. There can be no changes, no reform, nothing. And it's specifically, if it targets Christians and Jews and says whatever you're preaching is outdated and corrupted and dangerous, then we have a massive problem where multiculturalism just absolutely does not work. And I think this is what Douglas Murray actually alludes to. Let's see. I think this is a really good message, and I'll try to pause throughout just to give my commentary.
Failure of recognition of what it is in our societies that's worked. And I think we're at risk of killing the golden goose by saying the gold isn't golden enough. And the things that work in our society are very fundamental. What the framers, the founders, the framers of the Constitution realized. I mean, you know, maybe the only successful revolution in the world. They realized that things like freedom of conscience, freedom of speech were absolutely the bedrocks. And that if you didn't get them, then the rest could not follow. If you don't believe in freedom of expression, freedom of belief, freedom of worship, a whole set of other problems come. They essentially, as I see it, fall down to the fact that if you are in error, you cannot correct it.
If you are in an error, you cannot correct it. Unpack that.
So this is what John Stuart Mill, for instance, one of the great philosophers of liberty.
Actually, I think there's always this error, perhaps, that is made about the notion of freedom of religion. I know a lot of founders, a lot of the founders, the founding fathers in America, they were very big on all of that. But there were also people who recognized how crazy Islam was as a religion. And when they were talking about freedom of religion, I don't think a single one of them would thinking about a religion like Islam. They were thinking about denominations of Christianity, and the wars and the conflict that came out of that, and they wanted to prevent that. None of them were thinking, oh, we should try and integrate millions of Muslims, because one of the first wars the United States went to was the Barbary Wars against Muslims. And you could see a lot of founding fathers have written extensively about Islam and what they thought about Muhammad. And they did not have good things to say. In fact, a lot of them actually thought Muhammad was quite deranged. And they all noted how the religion of Islam tends to drive the average person insane.
Unpacks in one of his most famous works, On Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
The free speech, the necessity of free speech in a society comes about in part because if you are wrong, you need to know you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if you're running the economy and it's not working,
mm-hmm.
instead of keeping on allowing it to not work,
mm-hmm.
you have to have your ears and eyes open for a system that works. And it's by the way, one of the interesting things I find about markets guys in general is their ability to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, by the way, it just goes back slightly to the politicians. Now, but to go back to this, the ability to correct yourself if you're in error is absolutely key. The lack of information that has been available in not all, but much of the Islamic world for many centuries has caused a deep stagnation in those societies. And as I see it, the oil-rich countries like Qatar and Saudi, although Saudi is interestingly pivoting at the moment, very successfully,
mm-hmm.
really, they have been in the same situation that European monarchies were like in, let's say, the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, which was they could not grow the economy. There was no such concept, really.
Mm-hmm.
You had resources, in those days, sheep and crops. As today, the Gulf countries have oil. But that money was held by a small number of people, and there was just no other way of squeezing money from them other than squeezing them further in some form of taxation or invading a neighbor and taking their stuff. Much of the Muslim world, I think, has failed to grow in the way that the West has succeeded in growing in the last few centuries.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, like, just to cut off Mr. Douglas here, there's also this concept of, in Islam, where everything you're doing has already been decided. Whether you're a non-Muslim or a Muslim, whether God opens up your heart for you to become a believer, all of that's been decided already. Like, you actually do not have, and this is one of the ironies in Islam, and one of the bigger issues in it. Everything's been decided for you. You have no free will, really. Everything that you do is because God wills it. And it's often said in Islam, before you're born, God actually shows you your life multiple times, your entire life multiple times, and asks you something like 60 times or something, whether you still want to be born. And people still accept that, and thus they're born. So we're talking about people who's suffering on earth, people who end up becoming non-Muslims and end up burning in hell for eternity. All these people apparently accepted this fate, which is pretty absurd. And I guess another reason why Islam's a bit, like, ideologically stupid if you think about it. But because of this also, the stagnation that he's talking about actually happens because of this. A lot of Muslims believe, like, okay, life it just goes on. We have a much better life in the afterlife. in the next world. So why do we have to try so hard to make this life so much better? I mean, it can be just, it can just be average. We don't have to strive for anything. We don't have to push the limits. We don't have to be curious about how the world works. All of that has been included in the Quran, about how the sun sets in a muddy spring, about how the earth is flat. If you didn't know, that's what Islam actually thinks. About how Muhammad split the moon, or about how meteors are missiles God or the angels shoot at demons or whatever in the sky, or that mountains hold up the sky. These are all the stupid things that Muhammad taught back in the day. So the answers are all there. God has already decided your fate. So why, it doesn't give you any incentive to make your life better, or the lives of the people around you. And I think that's part of the reason why also Islamic societies are uniquely not as empathetic towards people who are not Muslim compared to, say, Christianity, for example. And now, I'm not a Christian, but there's a vast difference between love thy neighbor versus wage jihad, and the rocks and the trees will tell you there's a Jew behind you. A vast difference.
And this causes many things. One of them is a deep resentment. And one of the most important insights I've ever stumbled upon in my life in relation to that is there's a particular problem in the Islamic world which people don't really talk about very much, but it's this, that the Quran is meant to be the final revelation of God to man. The final revelation. There's none after it. And all the revelations that come before in the Abrahamic religions are part of Islam. If you are the recipients of the final word, and you are the followers of that word, and the followers of that prophet and that God, why is your society not working? And why are other societies working? I think this is a deep psychological problem within much of the Muslim world, which is we thought we were the winners theologically. We're the ones who got the final revelation. And I think, by the way, that much of the anti-Americanism, the anti-Zionism, and anti-Westernism in much of the Muslim world falls down to this fact somewhere at its root, which is how come they're doing better than us when we were told that we were best?
Actually, you know what? Just to interrupt him again, I can actually tell you the answer to this as an ex-Muslim. What he's saying is actually very true. This question is not an uncommon question in the Islamic world. I know growing up, even I used to ask my family members this question quite a bit. I would always say, hey, you know what, we were born Muslim and we have apparently all the answers. But look at the amount of suffering in the Islamic world. Muslims killing Muslims, Sunnis versus Shias and Sufis and Ahmadis in other areas of the world. And they're not producing any science. They're not inventing anything. They're not creating anything. Muslim women are uneducated. Muslim women are treated badly. They have blasphemy laws. Science is looked down upon. We're not improving. The Middle East is in shambles. The only functioning country looks like it's the arch enemy of Muslims, which is Israel. And the other arch enemy of the Islamic world, the United States, they're sending men to the moon. They're sending men to space. They're making the lives of everybody much better around the world. You know, even what we were using, like the Instagrams and the Twitters and all of that, all of this comes from the infidels. It's not coming from the Islamic world. I actually remember asking these questions. And they always say their answer is, but through the suffering, God is testing you. That is the answer. It was Such a cop-out answer. Because you could essentially answer every question like this as God's just testing you. And they would say, oh, God is also testing the infidels. God is testing the rich people like the Elon Musk and all that. They're testing how you react to Elon, and they're also testing how Elon reacts to his wealth. Like, oh, he's gotten so wealthy. Is he going to now convert to Islam? Is he going to see these signs and convert? Like, this was the answer that we used to get told. And it's, like, when thinking back to it, it was such a dumb answer. Like, it was a cop-out. It was an excuse. Because they all knew Islam, despite being the final word, Islam being apparently, like having these scientific miracles or whatever in it, the end result is that these countries, these societies, they all suffer collectively. And I know for a fact that Spain translates more books in 1 year than the entire Islamic world combined. So that's the difference in things like their drive for education and science and knowledge.
And I think it causes serious cognitive dissonance. It's one of the reasons why the Muslim world is so vulnerable to conspiracy theory. It's why when a shark attack happened at Sharm el Sheikh 10 years ago, the local authorities said that the shark that had eaten the bather at the most popular tourist resort in Egypt had been sent by the Zionists. This is like seeing the hand of the West. So it goes back to our earlier conversation. Seeing the hand of the West in other things is an explanation for why the things are not doing well there. And in country after country, whether it's Egypt, which is doing comparatively well compared to some of them, or Iran, as well, the immiseration of the people, the inability to unleash talent, and much more comes back to this small number of people benefiting and having no idea how to unleash talent underneath. That and political and personal and religious freedom, including freedom of speech and freedom of worship, are the absolute prerequisites. And that is why I cannot understand the suicidal anti-Westernism within our societies in our time. Because, as I like to say, the footfall should tell us everything. Nobody, as you say, is trying to go to Iran in order to have freedom of religion. Nobody is going into communist China for a better life, certainly not from the West.
They have a negative net migration, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is why when I think of the sort of college students who believe that no one's had it so bad as you do in 2024 at Berkeley, one of the things I'm sort of amazed at is like, do you not notice that the world wants to come here? And do you not think there might be a reason for that? And do you not think that it might be because...
Yeah, and it's, once again, it's correct. Like, I think it shows you the great contradiction in Islam, and I think I made a video about this as well, about how, Muslims always talk about how great Islam is, and yet when you look into it a little bit further, they're sending the message from a flat in London. They're not sending that message from Dhaka in Bangladesh, or somewhere in Yemen, or Syria, or Iraq, or Afghanistan. They're talking about how great Islam is from the safety and from the comfort of Amsterdam or Berlin or Sydney. And the really weird irony is that they actually don't see the irony here either. Like, you see people like, the Bushra Sheikhs of on X, for example. They're always talking about how a pan-unified Islamic society, or whatever it might be, or Five Pillars UK, for example, they're all talking about this, but they can never really come to terms with the fact that they are talking about it from the UK, from the comfort of London, of the freedoms that Western civilization has provided them. And that there are more people always going from Islamic society to Western civilization than vice versa. Now, you can obviously point to a place like the UAE, where a lot of people are going in because They have no corporate taxes or income taxes. Oh, actually, they don't have income taxes, not corporate taxes. They can talk about all of that. But the UAE, for example, what happens to you if you leave Islam as an Emirati? What happens to you? Nothing good. What happens? If you recall, there was a story about a little English child. I think he spent, not a child, a teenager. Two teenagers spent some time together, some intimate time together, and the mother of the girl complained to the UAE police because she did not approve of the relationship. She was this grumpy old lady, even though the whole thing was consensual. She complained, and the young man who was like 15 or 16, he got arrested, and they were about to put him in prison. I don't know if you recall this story. And then I think at the end, like, it wasn't a wealthy family or anything. They were there on a holiday, and I think he was finally freed after a long time, because obviously the UAE, they gotta watch out for those tourism dollars as well. But they are also the way they are because they adopted a lot of Western values. A certain level of liberty when it comes to non-married couples to cohabit together, to go on holiday together, for them to be able to serve alcohol, pork, whatever, to go on the internet, to engage in commerce, to charge interest, to do all of this. These are from the West. These did not come. These aren't Islamic values. They're doing this to attract as many people they can when the oil runs out. And they know if we remained a shithole like our neighbors, like Yemen, no one's going to visit. Our society is going to implode because the radical elements are going to come out and take over. So even a place like the UAE is not really that great of an example, honestly. There are always more Muslims that are moving to Western countries, and vice versa. And I think this is part of the reason why a lot of Muslims, they move to the West and they lose their faith, because they can see the parity. They can see how much better society is once they actually move to a place like in Europe. But I think in the UK, there's certainly an issue now where a lot of this youth, they're sort of stuck in the middle, and they don't know, they have an identity crisis. They don't know whether they should be more Pakistani and Muslim rather than British, and that's a problem for the Brits to solve, because at the moment it's not producing really great results. Yeah, interest is, they use so many loopholes. I mean, if you even think about Islamic banking, which actually exists even in Australia and many other Islamic countries, and when they give out mortgages and that, it's really funny the loopholes they use. They're like, we're going to charge a very significant amount of fees and other items, so that we're still making that profit that would have otherwise been called interest. So they're still making that money, but they're just not calling it interest. So they just use other ways, and then they call it Islamic banking, because they know in commerce they're not going to succeed otherwise. They simply cannot compete, and most of them don't really compete. Like most Islamic countries are pretty underdeveloped. They're nowhere near any other Western nation. Even nations, other nations. I feel like you just don't want to be in a. You don't want to go on holiday in Syria over Thailand, do you? You really don't. So that's the other difference, I guess. Yeah, I'm pretty sure both the kids were from the UK, actually, and it was a completely consensual encounter, and the mother of the girl found out about it, and she just, I don't know, like maybe it was a cultural thing, because she was Indian, and just went straight to the police. It was one of the most absurd stories I've ever heard about. But I'm glad that kid didn't get thrown into prison. But even the fact that there was a significant possibility that a child like that who'd committed no crimes was going to be thrown in prison for that in the UAE, which is usually used as an example of a great Islamic country, it shows you that there's a big problem. Yeah, and now it will cause lifelong trauma for all of them. Now look guys, I am going to take a short break to just grab a drink because I've been talking non-stop for a while. But I will be returning shortly and we can just do some casual Q&A before that. So be right back, everyone. everyone. I am back. I thought we could maybe just do a little bit of a casual stream now. Do a Q&A session. Who is making the art for me? I do all of it. Yeah, I do the song. I do the I've done the song. What else did I do? I did all the art. But not the pixel art for this. That's obviously not me. But yeah, I think even the t-shirt. In fact, oh, did I? Yeah, I like, I've been playing this game called, oh, my chair actually isn't that good. I need to upgrade it. Oh crap, I'm dying while I'm adjusting the volume. Okay, maybe. Is it better now? Okay, alright, never mind. Yeah, no, I have a bunch of t-shirts. I actually have a few designs, funny enough, for some dingo related merch and whatnot. But I've just been wearing it on my own. Like, as you can see, like, or I've given it to some patrons. But apart from that, like, I guess I've just been too busy to be able to sort that out on my own. Oh no, I do sleep a lot. After this, I'm gonna hit the gym as well. So I I do sleep a lot, in fact. I don't know if any of you have played Battlefield. I've been playing a little bit. I'm not very good. But I do love a bit of FPS games when I'm just, oh shit, trying to relax. Hey man, that's me getting sniped big time. Yeah, I figured I would reduce the volume in game. Aaron, otherwise what happens is I mean, unless you want to hear the tanks and yeah. Jesus, I have a very I just shoot at everything. If friendly fire was on, I would be shooting at everybody. I think I would be killing more teammates than enemies. But hopefully this coming year I would be able to actually release a little bit more, because I felt like with the whole name that I had chosen for myself, it's really fun to make art around it, like a cool actual dingo with a bit of cyberpunk aesthetics and that. Oh my goodness. So hopefully, yeah, I only play this really just to relax a little bit. There's another game that I've been playing called Tomb Raider, the Survivor trilogy. That I've found to be quite fun. I'm on to the third one now. I don't know what these guys are shooting at. Oh my god. The fun part is no one can really... Okay, here we go. Yeah, hopefully I can actually put this out for more people. Oh. Yeah, that happens to me. I feel like I need a better way to read the chat. Because the second I looked at the chat, I got whooped. And you know what, funny enough, I actually got a few things here as well, because I've been trying to build out the studio a little bit. I've got my old Oni mask here. I've got I'll see if I can show you guys this. Oh. I've got this statue of Thanos, but unfortunately it doesn't really feature very much. Oh, where is it? Feature very much on the videos. So this is just a live stream. Have a little bit of fun time, exclusive, I guess. It's if you know the brand Hot Toys, they do these little collectibles. So I really love this character, and figured I would just get this as a decoration. Although he can be very unstable at times. But yeah, next year definitely. I think I'll try very hard to just get a little bit more merch and that sort of thing in there. My goodness. Great. That didn't last very long, that round. But I think definitely a part of it is hoping that as many people can join up on Patreon. I would like to build that community a lot more. Obviously that is what really supports the channel and keeps me going. Believe it or not, when yeah, believe it or not, like a lot of proceeds in that, especially when I first started doing the channel, and I started getting so many threats from these people. And if you've been around for a long time, you would know, literal IS members once invaded like the Discord, and genuinely I had to upgrade so much security at home, because before that, yeah, I could even do Baldur's Gate. I really like that game. Spent way too long playing that. Yeah, yeah, as I was saying, like when that happened, like everything that was earned from the channel, everything just went into upgrading security at home. Believe it or not, like that was, and I feel like now after the shooting, I just realized, yeah, that was certainly the right choice, because I didn't realize that many violent people really existed in Australia. You generally think of Australia as a relatively safe type of place without these types of issues, unlike Europe. But turns out, if they really wanted to, there's really no difference. In fact, it could be worse. Because I think the Europeans have had a lot of opportunity to actually figure this out a little bit more, because they're just a constant target. Whereas in Australia, yeah, we're at a point where we're also denying that these problems exist on top of. Yeah, okay. I wasn't gonna win that one-on-one. So revive me? Nope. I'm dead. Oh my god. Oh. Spawn into getting blown up. And my teammates right there as well. Oh! Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm not having very good luck here. Oh my god. I don't want to be up here with all the campers. Guys, come on. This is terrible. Yeah. Yeah, see, I'm not usually even a multiplayer player. Like, oh my god. There's a tank in front of me as well. Gonna get my ass whooped here. Yeah, there you go. I can't blame that one on trying to read the chat. I was just too fucking slow. God. Oh my god. That was rough. Yeah, I wish I'd have done that to my teammate. I revived him. And both of us got blown up by a helicopter right in front of us. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh. Yeah, I'm not the best, unfortunately. But you know what I would never do? I would never, if I'm... I am never going to switch to becoming a sniper and camp because I'm getting my ass whooped. Oh, fuck. Well, of course he is. I think I've even read on, you know, very left-wing Reddit where people were not very happy with how he's really been behaving. Because I think even they can tell this whole gun issue is just a facade. Because perhaps he's not... Because everyone knows, really, what those electorates are like. As I showed you, even the opposition puts out someone who's a Muslim. So it's like 5 Muslims versus each other, trying to compete for that one seat. Oh my god. Oh, fuck's sake. I thought that smoke grenade would actually help me, but I guess not. We've almost won. We've almost won. That's okay. Where is this guy? Oh. You know what? I have actually never played a video game like this on stream before. This is the first time. Yeah, never. I mean, I know we've spoken quite a lot about... Oh shit, there's a tank. How do we get out of this? Any one of you guys have any engineers here? Nope. Oh shit. This Islamic tank is here. Oh my god. Oh, okay. Thank you. I've come back to life. Oh shh. Oh my god. Yeah, I wasn't getting out of that one. Oh, okay. Didn't think this guy would actually do that, but thank you very much, sir. Oh shit! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my! Oh my! Ah. This is a bad spot to be in because of this tank. The high ground. Oh, actually, I've realized something.
Shotgun.
I realized they were just listening to my stream. Oh my! Oh. Why the fuck would I spawn into this guy? Come on. Get out of combat. Yes. Oof. Yeah. This is a bad spot to be in. Just getting absolutely destroyed in here. Yeah, there's
There's a fucking 1,000 snipers.
Can I spawn in a spot where I'm not getting shot at every 2 seconds? Oh my god. Okay. Not thanks to me. That's for sure. Had a good squad though. Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, I will call it for today. I hope you enjoyed my little bonus of getting my ass whooped on Battlefield. But thank you. And hopefully I will do another one very soon, and do these live streams as much as possible, and maybe play something where it's a bit more story driven and single player, so that so that you can't see how bad I am at this game, which I do enjoy playing though. Well, thank you all very much for joining as usual, and I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I'll try to do more in the mornings as well, so that I catch a bigger crowd. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you all the members. Thank you all the patrons. I can't do this without all of you. And thank you very much for joining the live stream. And hopefully we'll do another one very soon. You'll see me play something else, maybe Tomb Raider. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, if it is the weekend for you. Until next time, thanks all.